we start. Thank you, Miranda, for setting this up. So the main point of this that I wanted to do is to really showcase like one of our strongest features, which is basically our all-star alumni, and the fact that to have everybody just talk a little bit about how they got to University of Washington, what were some things that they would say to the public, and also just how their experience has been, what people have learned from University of Washington. We have 2 applicants now on, and we're going to record this and send it out to other people who are applying. So those are kind of the things that I thought we would go through. So the types of questions is, what made you decide to come to University of Washington Neuromuscular program? If you came from another institution, how was the transition to the University of Washington program? What is your job now? Is it private practice or academics? How much neuromuscle do you see? How many EMGs do you do per month? What did you like about University of Washington Neuromuscular Fellowship in North Seattle? And if you had to make the same choice now, would you make the same decisions? And then lastly is, how was your neuromuscular training impacted your interactions with other neurologists, physicians in your institution? So you don't have to tackle everything, but maybe different people can tackle different kinds of questions. Why don't I just kind of start and lead the discussion a little bit? So I'm going to start with Jamila, because Jamila, you're one of our few, you're the only person on this panel right now that had a J1 visa. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
And so you came from Canada, so you came from a different nation. And so the question, I do know the answer, but like what made you decide to come to University of Washington, and how was the transition to?
Well, I mean, UW, I started looking into fellowship options. I was in my last year of residency in Canada, and I did my neuromuscular rotation, and I totally loved it, but I was in a position where most fellowship applicants had already decided where they were going, and there were very few Canadian spots left. There were none. And so then I was looking at geography, close proximity to Vancouver, which is where I'm from. And then I came down, I think it was in, spring of 2014, and I interviewed at the program, and I was just so impressed by the people that I met, the culture at UW, the friendliness. And I really liked the fact that the people I'd be training with all had different sets of experience. They came from different institutions and had different strengths. And I just really felt that it had an amazing culture. And then we had some funding issues, and we were able to kind of sort that out late 2015. And then 2016, I started the visa application process. And by April, I was down in the States. So there was a lot of hoops to jump through. I thought it was completely possible. I mean, if I could go from, not having a visa to having a visa in 4 months. I moved down to Seattle. I got daycare for my kid. She was 2.5. And I had an amazing year, honestly. The amount that I developed compared to what I was when I came out of residency to where I was when I came out of fellowship was a world of difference. The staff really took an interest in me, and not only in my weaknesses, but also my strengths. And I just felt really well trained when I came back and wrote the Canadian exams. I was able to get more than 400 studies in the year that I was there, which is what I needed to write the Canadian boards. I flew through them with no difficulty, to the point where I was sitting. We have a component of it that's oral, where you go in and you have patients that you need to do OSCE type situations with. And then there's a written exam, and then there's an auditory exam where you listen to waveforms and have to identify them. And in my oral component, I was sitting there with time to spare in every single station. And it was because I had answered all the questions, and I was sitting there anxiously wondering if I had done a good job. And they said, no, we're done. You have no questions. If there was anything else, we would ask you more. And so that was just it was really wonderful to come back and have that experience of just knowing that I was well trained. And I work in a community location in the Lower Mainland in Richmond. I'm one of the 2 neuromuscular staff there. And I recently opened and bought my own private office, and am going through accreditation to open up my own neurodiagnostic lab in the community. So yeah, that's just my little spiel.
Thanks for sharing. We'll come back to you. So on the panel, we have Ben, who came to us from UC Davis, and Stephanie, you came to us from Arizona. So maybe you guys can talk about how was the transition to the University of Washington. Maybe Stephanie, you can go first.
Yeah, sure. It was a very easy transition, I would say. It was a very exciting time to be transitioning to neuromuscular, because I had been wanting to do that since pretty early on in my training. I would echo a lot of what Jamila said. The environment at UW, and I'm a pediatric neurologist, so also over at Seattle Children's, was just a very positive learning environment, really good camaraderie type of feel amongst all the physicians. So it was definitely an easy transition. I also had some experience with all of the different EHRs that we used amongst the different institutions, so that was helpful. I felt like overall we just had a really good amount of volume that we saw at all of the institutions, UW, the VA, Seattle Children's, a good breadth of pathology. I did want to just make let people know that I feel like all of the physicians that I worked with really took a strong interest in the people that they train, and really care about our development. So they took the time to kind of cater to what I needed to learn as a pediatric neurologist, to be trained to be a pediatric neuromuscular specialist. So making sure that I had time to spend a good amount of time over at Seattle Children's, which I really appreciated.
Yeah, so I think we're talking a little bit about some of our flexibility in our program that we were able to kind of tailor that to. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, definitely made sure that it was tailored.
Well, why don't we get Ben to talk a little bit about like how was the transition to University of Washington?
Yeah, so I came from UC Davis, where I did my residency, and during the last second to last year, I suppose, of residency, I had the opportunity to do a rotation over with Leo and company, and that was a great opportunity to really see how wonderful UW was. I felt that all of the neuromuscular people were highly engaged in teaching. And one of their fellows, previous fellows, was really a great teacher as well. And she's, where is she now? Where's Najwa?
Najwa is at the United Arab Emirates. I didn't ask her to come because I think the timing wouldn't really work out.
Yeah, I don't know what the time difference is, but I'm sure it's substantial. It'll probably be middle of the night for her or something.
Sure. That was really great to see how well trained she was, how excellent teacher she was. And, I got the sense that, this was a strong culture of being engaged, collegial, and passing on that knowledge to the next generation. So I took a lot from that rotation and made my decision to do the fellowship there. The transition was very smooth, as you can imagine, since I had already met all the folks over there. So I felt like it was just a very natural transition for me. I feel like I got all the training I needed to practice on my own. I'm currently at Kaiser, as you can probably see from my background. And I enjoyed this position quite a bit. I kind of had the flexibility to practice the way I was trained, and my practice, I would say, is about 50 to 60% neuromuscular at this point. I've taken a lot of the things I've learned from from Leo and Dr. Weiss as well. I do skin biopsies and I do single fiber EMGs. Actually, because I have that extra training, we've been able to internalize those procedures at Kaiser, where in the Northwest region, whereas before you had to outsource it. So I do feel like I came away very well trained and added a lot of value to my current practice.
Let's continue on and ask another Kaiser person, and that'd be Haley. And Haley, I know that you probably need to leave at some point soon. So so you went to the Kaiser as well. And how much neuromuscle do you see, and how many EMGs do you do per month?
Oh, the EMGs really vary. I do a fair amount of EMGs. Like this week, I probably had about 15, just because we were getting a little backed up on EMGs. So
How many half days is that?
we actually have it scheduled so that it intermixes between other things. So it kind of varies, and it depends on how long the EMGs are. But some of the nice things that that schedule allows me is that we do some of the similar things that we trained with you guys to do. For some ALS patients that we suspect ALS, we'll have the longer EMG and then a visit right after. So then we can talk about the EMG right away and things like that. So that's nice. And what was the other question?
The other question was, yeah, it's fine. What did you take from your training with us that helps out at Kaiser?
Yeah. So I think that I really thought that you guys did a great job of sort of giving me the fundamentals of neuromuscular. And then and just kind of making sure that I felt very comfortable with dealing with the majority of cases that I see. And when I have some odder cases that I'm not really sure exactly how to take care of, that are outside of what I can really research on my own, I often reach out to you guys and ask questions, and I feel very comfortable doing so. You've already gotten a number of questions from me.
Yeah, I forgot to mention another thing that I took away was a very strong foundation in genetics. So actually, even the geneticists end up seeing patients that they refer to me. So I think that was a great experience.
I'm not so sure we can claim credit for all of that. So let's continue on the spectrum and go and get Adam to talk a little bit more. Adam, thanks for coming. Is that a COVID beard that you have there? You're on mute. Wait, Adam, we can't hear you.
He doesn't have a mute symbol. Maybe he has a microphone problem.
Adam, we can't. Oh, let me text him.
I think he realizes there's a problem.
Oh, the big thumbs down.
Why don't you work on that and we'll come back. We'll swing back to you. All right. Anisha, maybe talk about like your experience and mainly and like what you do now, because you do something different than what we do, which is pediatrics, and you're also doing some research, and what are some things that you learned from this, and what are some things that you've taken that's helped you and
Ensure that you guys can't hear me still.
Yeah, we're going to come back to you, Adam.
Oh, you hear me now though?
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. I'll be quiet.
We'll get back to you. All right, Anisha.
Yeah, so I would say that one of the things that sort of had a profound impact on me was that at UW, I had done my residency at Seattle Children's. I came up from San Francisco for med school, then did residency at Seattle. And I'm also pediatric neurology. And then I stayed on at UW, but it didn't feel like staying on. It felt like I was exposed to a completely different kind of set of interests and a different culture, and it was awesome. I think that the program really stood out because Leo and Max and Dr. Weiss and and Dr. Distat, I think the whole group, at the time Seth wasn't there, just very, very bright, very inquisitive, very interested in the fellows, and also interested in running a really nice program. And I think that that was very eye-opening for me and sort of started me on this path. So I will always be grateful for that experience. And I think that it was really helpful to be able to be exposed more to the adult world because at children's, in pediatric neurology, we weren't seeing adults at all for 2 years. And so I think it's wonderful to see the other side, like where are we trying to send our patients when they age out? So that was really helpful. And then obviously, I would reiterate what other people have said about just rigorous training and lots of good volume. What happened after that was I joined Multicare, Mary Bridge, which is a children's hospital affiliated with Tacoma General in the South Sound. And it is not a university affiliated hospital. It's academic in the sense that it teaches residents and fellows from Madigan, which is the Army base. And we have a separate research institute, but it's a not-for-profit environment. It's very different. It's like 70% Medicaid, Medicare. And so I really kind of was able to take some of that spirit of inquiry and bring it here. And they've supported me to start a program. So there was really no neuromuscular kind of focus at all at Mary Bridge. And they've allowed me to try to expand that a little bit. So we've been working on that. For example, we're offering some of the gene therapies for SMA, which weren't available here at all. They were all being referred. And the families that see us are already traveling quite a distance. So both Leo and Seth have supported me greatly in trying to expand that and offer that for Multicare. And I also do EMGs. Majid Al-Mateen was here before, and so I joined him. He's kind of phasing out of practice and I'm phasing in. And so I usually will do anywhere from probably 2 to 4 EMGs a week. So I think that's, I don't know, probably 20 to 30% of my visits are either neuromuscular or EMG. I also do LPs for the group. So I'll do LPs not just for genetic therapies, but any sort of intrathecal administration of therapy I'll do. And then I see a lot of general neurology, general pediatric neurology, and inpatient neurology because it's a small practice. There's only 8 or 9 of us, so we all share that. But it's been a lot of fun. And they've allowed me to start kind of taking some steps towards doing research as well. So currently I have an observational study running, and then we're looking for different trials and trying to figure out what to do for that. But there is separate support, and I have separate research assistants that help us with that. So it's a really interesting practice environment and model, which is different from the university. And I think it kind of set me up to try something different, which was fun.
Thanks, Nisha. So let's bring in the guy with a new beard. Adam, tell us about your beard.
Can you guys hear me now?
Oh, yes.
Okay, great. The beard is maybe not that interesting, but I took the advantage of COVID to grow it behind a mask in those awkward first few weeks. And now it's as good as it's going to get, I think. But
I have to say that I'm slightly disappointed. I'll have to send you a photo of me with my mustache. I did the same thing. I took advantage of COVID, but nobody seemed to really like it. Michael,
yeah, we would tease you during Zoom lectures and stuff even when we had visitors.
But it was spectacular. So Adam, maybe talk a bit about when you did fellowship and what kind of, you're probably the most purely private practice person now, and talk a little bit about your practice and how much neuromuscle that you do and how many EMGs do you do per month?
Sure. And so I'll just start by saying it's good to see everybody's face. It's been too long. So thanks for having me here. I'm in private practice in Tucson, Arizona. But back to the fellowship, I don't think I have a lot of original thoughts that others haven't articulated probably better than I would about the value of the fellowship. I mean, it was outstanding. It was a great choice for me, and it opened up a lot of doors, I think. I think one thing that I'll say is that when starting out in a private practice environment, or probably an academic one as well, as a first year guy, if you've done a fellowship, probably you'll have senior physicians talking to you about your area of expertise. If you haven't, you probably won't as much. My practice here is a busy one. You know, I probably average maybe 100 EMGs a month or so. I do a lot of EMGs for the neurosurgeons who refer to me, and then I have my own, you know, neuromuscle patient cohort as well. My practice is perhaps 35%, 40% neuromuscular maybe. And I see a fair bit of general neurology as well. I have an interest in developing our neuromuscle kind of offerings at the Center for Neuroscience. And so I started an infusion center 6 months ago or so, and now I'm actively recruiting a peds neuromuscle candidate who I hope we can get to just kind of expand what we can offer as we move into the intrathecal and genetic therapies in neuromuscular neurology, because I think that's really where the excitement is in the field from my point of view. What else can I tell you that would be useful?
Oh, I think that how useful was the neuromuscular fellowship now in terms of being in Tucson, Arizona? Like how many neuromuscular specialists are there? Do you see most of them? And do community neurologists like call you up or ask you for help because they know you did neuromuscle and your interaction with other physicians?
You know, let me think. So Tucson has a little north of 1 million people in the valley now. So it is kind of a larger, medium-sized city. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5 neuromuscle specialists here in the city, 2 of which work at my group, and then another 2 at the academic center Banner. And so, yeah, I mean, I do get certainly primary care as well as neurologists who are talking to me with you know, pretty regularly about questions they have in peripheral neurology.
If I can maybe pick Stephanie's brain a little bit, almost on the flip side, like from what your experience in practice looks like, Adam. Stephanie, you've gone on to be faculty at University of Utah, and really in a hardcore academic setting. Could you talk a little bit about kind of what your role looks like and how you fit into that environment, and kind of what your neuromuscle fellowship training prepped you for with that?
Yeah, definitely. I will say I just kind of recently started my position because I took some time off and had a baby and had maternity and whatnot. So I'm still kind of getting my feet wet at my new institution, but I am doing primarily neuromuscular. I would say at this point I'm doing probably 70 to 80% neuromuscular. There's a lot fewer of us peds neuromuscular specialists out there, pretty rare breed. So they were very excited to find somebody. They had kind of a void at the University of Utah for a few years where they didn't have a neurologist who could perform EMGs. They do have another neuromuscular specialist who sees patients in the clinic and does a lot of research, but they needed someone to fill kind of that clinical gap and to perform EMGs. So I was very happy to provide that for them. I do also some research. I'm currently part-time, given that I just had my baby, but we'll be doing more research when I go back full-time. But for now, we have a program called the Utah Program for Inherited Neuromuscular Disorders that has a lot of support for research trials, both adult and pediatric. I think amongst all of the trials going on through that group, there's about 40 of them. So there's a lot of research taking place. And I am co-PI on one of the projects. And we also are a part of the MD StarNet. So looking at different types of muscular dystrophies with that database. So I think that the program definitely prepared me. Like I had said earlier, I think that the UW program really took the onus on helping me form a program that prepared me as a pediatric neuromuscular specialist, not just general neuromuscular specialist. So just examples of that, making sure I had pediatric continuity clinic, getting to go to all the peds MDA clinics. I also had wanted to do a couple extra months at the end of my fellowship because of COVID. I just wanted more EMG time, especially more peds EMG time, and they were just totally willing to work that out for me. And also I kind of owe the program for helping me find my job too. Leo was really integral in helping set that up for me. So very appreciative of my training and of that.
Thanks, Stephanie. Let's bring David in. David, you're our current fellow, one of our 2 current fellows right now, and maybe talk about how did you navigate through your job search, and where did you land, and what were some of the choices and some of the thought process there?
Sure. So I think I had a very prolonged crisis in the form of job search related to exactly how academic versus non-academic I wanted to stay. And ultimately, I think I did find a job that hopefully will be kind of a good fusion of the two. I'm going to be at Swedish, one of the other providers in town, which is a community center, but does have medicine residency, medical students, does research, and kind of has a tertiary care style model. I'll be doing a mix of general and neuromuscular there, about 50-50. So hopefully that'll be a good fit, but I think throughout this process, the faculty here have been super helpful and supportive and encouraging and willing to listen as I go in circles in terms of my thought process. I think kind of taking a step back, I also did residency here in neurology, and I just found from early on that the neuromuscular faculty, in particular Dr. Wong, Dr. Ma, who I met early in my residency, were really supportive and were a big part of the reason that I chose to do neuromuscular fellowship in general. They always seemed to have an interest in my career and were helpful with me making the decision about pursuing this fellowship. And then over time, they and the rest of the neuromuscular faculty were happy to talk to people across the country on my behalf in both private as well as academic settings as I did the job search. And I really just can't emphasize enough kind of how supportive they were with that, which was really great, and going above and beyond, and not just with letters of recommendation and that sort of thing, but also just helping me to decide who was important to talk to in making my decision and how to help figure that out. I think for me, ultimately, I love Seattle. My family is pretty settled here, and it seemed like a good fit for the job I found. But they were really helpful to guide me there. Hopefully, that answers the question.
No, that's great. I know some people need to peel off, but maybe the people who need to go first can talk about like, what was the most fun thing that they've done in Seattle?
Gosh, there's so much to do in Seattle. Like, I lived in Kirkland, which is really close, just a stone throw across the bridge. And I just really enjoyed the lake and, nature and hiking and the people. Everyone was super friendly. I feel like I walked away from fellowship, not just with amazing training and a lot of knowledge and development, but I also walked away with like good friendships and, not only could I just call on any one of the staff for advice when I see a challenging case, but they're all friends. And so I don't think that a lot of people could really say that about their experience, but I don't know if others can, but I can. And yeah, it's just an amazing place, amazing people.
Maybe you and Anisha can talk a little bit more about like how you guys, how did it work with having a family in Seattle?
So having a family in Seattle, there's so many wonderful things to do with children. There's the zoo, there's the space museum, there's like, you know, there's downtown, there's Pike Place Market. There's beautiful parks. And I also thought that you know, my daughter was 2.5 and I had her in Bright Horizons daycare. And I just thought that the level of kind of stimulation that she got as a young kind of person, for me, it was the first time my child was outside of care in the home. We had a live-in caregiver in Canada. So you can imagine how much stress I was under just to think about dropping her off somewhere and having her be there for a good portion of the day. But they just did an amazing job with childcare. And yeah, I can't say enough positive things about Seattle for parents. And I think that the fellowship program was really understanding and accepting of that. You know, if I had to leave to pick up my kid from daycare at 5:30, that was always really respected. And I felt like I could balance fellowship with being a good mother. And, you know, obviously there were lots of late nights. I would put her to bed and be up late, really late. But it was possible as a single parent. My husband was in Vancouver. I was here most of the week with her, and it was completely doable. And I was happy.
Let's get in the second parent who also has a significant other who's a lawyer.
Yeah, I would echo that. I felt very grateful that I felt like the program got it, you know, in terms of having to balance that. And sometimes it's a big balance. We had, our son was born in 2015. Yeah, so he was like 3, so around the same age. I think that definitely flexibility of time, and also just understanding that that some things you just need to do differently or do in a different way if you're parenting at the same time. And yeah, my husband was working, if anything, worse hours than I was as a lawyer. So we made it work. I would say that Seattle is a very family-friendly town. There are a lot of families in Seattle. And, you know, I would say that any big city, it's going to be the same things that you're looking at, such as finding the right childcare, you know, balancing your commute and childcare and work and that kind of thing. But Seattle is very family friendly. So we were happy with that situation, I think. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything else that you wanted me to think about or comment about, but
No. It's just I think you guys are the woman who had kids, and just getting that perspective. Maybe you can bring in David and what it's like for his perspective with kids.
Sure. So I have 2 young kids, 4.5 and 2. And my wife is not in medicine, but she has a very demanding career as well and works full time. So it's not always easy, you know, with 2 working parents, but it's been very doable during fellowship. I mean, I think just to echo what everyone else says, I think the hours during fellowship have been really great. And I think everyone is very understanding. I also just think Seattle is such an incredible place to raise a family. In particular, I think one thing that just sets Seattle apart is you have such amazing access to the outdoors. And so your kids just grow up with kind of this appreciation for nature that could be produced in different places, but here it's sort of just like a natural thing that happens. And so I've really appreciated that in particular. My kids are also in Bright Horizons Daycare, the one that's affiliated with Harborview, which there's a huge discount in terms of childcare that comes with that, and I think they really do a fantastic job there as well. So that's been great.
So Adam, what was the most fun thing that you did during your neuromuscle fellowship here in Seattle? Let's hear that.
Probably playing basketball with Dr. Max Ma was probably up on the list on the team. Yeah, I'll go with that.
That's good. What about Ben? What was your favorite thing to have done in Seattle?
Yeah, really friendly people. I lived close by Green Lake, so that was a great place to hang out. I just kind of randomly met people in my apartment complex. They needed extra people to play ultimate frisbee, so that got me back into ultimate frisbee. And I actually found a group down here, and they play ultimate frisbee once a week. So that I think it's just a culture of Seattle. It's just really friendly. There's a sense of community there for sure.
I think we're gonna finish up pretty soon, just because I think we've kind of answered a lot of things. But maybe like Stephanie, it seems I remember that the thing that you thought was the most interesting thing when you started was the Fremont Solstice Parade.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. So we had moved into our apartment and kind of just unloaded everything, went to bed that night. And the next morning, just down the street, there's a giant parade going on. And we had woken up to see people riding their bikes down the street naked. And so, but they had at Gasworks Park, they have a giant solstice festival where they're just celebrating the summer. And so that was kind of like our fun welcome to Seattle. And that's very, very memorable. But as far as I'm concerned, I think Seattle is the best city in the country. It's absolutely beautiful. Just everywhere you look, there's water, there's green. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona, so it's all brown, desert, cactuses, but Seattle is just absolutely gorgeous. And I was there for first half of COVID, and so things were shut down, but we still thoroughly enjoyed our entire time that we lived there. Just go on long walks with our dogs and just take in all the beautiful scenery. So we'll be back someday, I think.
Haley, what is it that you like the most of Seattle? I mean, you're from Seattle originally.
Oh, I could go on and on. I think one of the most memorable things for me, and maybe it's in my mind because now I'm talking to UW people again, but Dr. Oakes from our residency program, she took us out on her boat, and we went as a group, and that was really fun out on the docks and out in the water. So I really enjoyed that, but there's lots of other things to do. Trying different foods around Seattle is always fun. Got some sushi grade sashimi the other day, and like hiking during COVID. There's been not too much to do, outside, so, inside. So we've been going hiking in different areas, and I've really enjoyed that.
Matt, you did your fellowship here as well, and we'll bring you in. What was the most fun thing that you think you've done during residency and fellowship in Seattle that you've taken advantage of?
You're on mute.
I was muted, yeah. So residency and fellowship. Well, there's a lot. I got married during my residency, so I have to have that up there. No, but fellowship. I lived actually not in Seattle itself. I was south in by Tacoma, and so the things I liked most about living in this area, though, are still the outdoor kind of things everyone's kind of alluding to. There's a park like in the middle of Federal Way down there. West Hillowos has like a nice like boardwalk all the way through it. I really like going there just to kind of chill out. There's a lot of great parks. We were kind of going around to a whole bunch of them. Still haven't done a whole lot of skiing though, but yeah, the outdoor stuff is really the stuff I like the best.
Well, thanks everyone. I think we'll wrap up because I think that I mean, first, it was really great to see everybody. It was really fun. Thank you guys for doing this. I think we'll definitely let all the applicants know. I think this shows off like some of our really strongest points. The second point is that the AEN is going to be in Seattle next year. So hopefully we will see everybody here, and I think we should definitely try to do something to make sure that we get to see everybody. And we'll have to think about how we're going to manage this again, because next year the application process is going to be online once again. So thanks, everybody. Michael, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I joined late. I'm sorry about that, but I wanted to say it's great to see everybody today coming back for this event. It's fantastic to see everybody, and everybody sounds like they're thriving, and that's what we hope to hear when we hear from you guys. But we'd like to see you in person at some point, so hopefully next year.
I think that once COVID is ended and people are vaccinated, people in the region, we usually have a welcoming event at the beginning of the year, which we didn't have this year for completely reasonable reasons. But we should definitely have something where we get everybody together to, like just said, I survived COVID party.
Create t-shirts. UW Neuromuscular Medicine Fellowship, I survived COVID, and my fellowship.
All right. Well, why don't we just end with just asking our applicants, Taya and Yigit, if you guys have any questions, you can more than welcome to type it in the chat. We'll just give everybody a minute or two, but it's really nice to see everybody. Thank you guys so much for showing up for this.
Thanks for doing it. Thanks for being part of this. Thanks for organizing this, Leo.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Good to see you guys.
For organizing.
Bye.
Good to see you guys.
Bye.